Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in every life when the noise of the world grows so loud that it tries to drown out the whisper of our own spirit. In that moment, we must pause, breathe, and remember a truth Dr. Maya Angelou lived by. When you focus on yourself, when you grow in silence, you rise with a strength that cannot be shaken. Today, we explore the quiet power of self-reflection, discipline, and the sacred act of honoring your own journey, without announcing every step of it to the world. Silence is a sanctuary for personal growth, a place where the soul can finally stretch itself without fear, without judgment, without the heavy weight of the world pressing against it. When a person steps into silence, they step into a room where their spirit is allowed to breathe fully for the first time in a long time. Silence is not emptiness. It is a presence, a companion, a deeply loyal teacher. The world teaches us to speak loudly, to defend ourselves, to explain our hearts, to perform our lives as though we owe an audience every minute of our becoming. But silence whispers a different instruction. It reminds us that growth does not need applause, transformation does not require permission, and healing is most powerful when it is done quietly, without a spotlight, without a stage. In silence, a person learns to listen to the sound of their own heartbeat. And for many, that is the first time they have heard it clearly. There is something sacred that happens when the noise fades away. The chatter of comparison, the sting of criticism, the pressure of expectations, they all soften. In that softness, you discover that your soul has been waiting for you, waiting for your attention, waiting for your honesty, waiting for your courage. People spend years trying to find peace in other people, in validation, in praise, in constant conversation, when all along their peace was waiting in the quiet corners of their own mind. Silence is not loneliness. Silence is intimacy with your own truth. It calls you back to yourself gently, the way a mother calls her child home at the end of a long, exhausting day. When you choose silence, you choose your power. The world often confuses silence with weakness, but true silence is strength under control. It is the strength of a mountain that does not need to shout to prove it is tall, the strength of the ocean that does not need to announce its depth. Silence holds a kind of authority that noise can never imitate. Anyone can raise their voice, but only a strong, grounded spirit can raise their awareness without saying a word. When you step into silence, you are not running away from the world. You are returning to the command center of your life. You are retreating so you can rebuild. You are withdrawing so you can rise. You are choosing to sit with yourself long enough to understand what you truly want and what you must release. Growth begins the moment you stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Silence removes the pressure to justify your dreams, your choices, your healing process. You owe no one the blueprint of your becoming. The soil does not explain to the world how it nurtures a seed. The seed does not announce when it begins to sprout. Yet one day a flower emerges, beautiful and undeniable. That is what silence does for the human spirit. It allows the roots to grow deep before the world ever sees the bloom. And the deeper the roots, the stronger the rise in silence. You hear the questions that matter. Who am I when no one is watching? What do I truly desire? What habits must I let go of? Who have I been pretending to be just to keep others comfortable? These questions do not come to people who fill their lives with constant noise. Noise distracts, noise numbs, noise keeps you from facing the truth of yourself. Silence, however, demands honesty. It asks you to sit with your fears, your regrets, your hopes, your potential. It holds a mirror up to your ear and says, look, this is who you are. This is who you can become. Growth cannot happen in denial. Silence removes denial layer by layer until you are face to face with the rawness of your own possibility. When a person learns to appreciate silence, they also learn to appreciate patience. Silence slows the world down just enough for you to notice what you have been ignoring. You begin to recognize the small steps you have taken, the tiny victories you forgot to celebrate, the old wounds you never tended to, the blessings you rushed past without gratitude. Silence teaches you to listen deeply, not only to yourself, but to life. You begin to hear your intuition with clarity. You begin to sense when something is right for you and when something is not. You begin to recognize the quiet warnings that your spirit gives before your life falls into chaos. Many people suffer because they never learn to listen to the whispers of their own soul. Silence sharpens your inner hearing until you can sense truth the way a bird senses the wind. Silence is also protection. When you keep your growth private, you protect your energy from the opinions of those who do not understand your path. You protect your dreams from those who will speak fear into them. You protect your healing from those who would rather see you broken, because your healing reminds them of their own unwillingness to change. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Not everyone has earned the right to hear your plans, your pain, your excitement, your transformation. Silence allows you to hold your sacred things close until you are strong enough to share them confidently, without the need for approval in the quiet. You begin to realize that you do not need to control everything. You do not need to chase validation. You do not need to respond to every insult or argument. Silence teaches you the power of letting things pass. Not every battle is your battle, and not every comment requires your voice. Some things lose their power the moment you refuse to give them your attention. Silence helps you detach from the unnecessary and hold tightly to the meaningful. You begin to see how much energy you wasted on conversations that did not feed your spirit, on conflicts that had nothing to do with your purpose, on noise that kept you from your own greatness. As you grow in silence, you begin to change from the inside out. Your thoughts become calmer, clearer. Your emotions become more stable. Your choices become more intentional. You start nurturing habits that reflect the person you want to be, not the person the world pressured you to become. Silence creates the space for new growth to root itself. It allows your mind to reset, your heart to soften, and your spirit to expand. Growth is not always loud, dramatic, or visible. Sometimes growth is simply choosing peace over chaos, purpose over distraction, discipline over impulse, authenticity over performance. There is also a beautiful confidence that rises in a person who spends time in silence. It is not the loud confidence that demands attention. It is the quiet confidence that knows its own worth without needing to shout it. You become more secure in who you are. You stop rushing. You stop comparing. You stop explaining. You stop begging for love that is already within you. Silence fills you with a dignity that cannot be shaken by gossip, criticism, or doubt. It teaches you that the approval you were searching for was never outside of you. It was always waiting within, patient and unwavering. As you sit with yourself long enough, you begin to see what you must become. You begin to see the habits you must break, the relationships you must outgrow, the dreams you must resurrect, the boundaries you must establish. Silence gives you clarity that no conversation, no argument, no external noise can provide. People often say they do not know what to do with their life, but the truth is that the answer usually comes in the moments, when they allow themselves to be alone long enough to hear it. Silence is not empty. It is full of answers, full of wisdom, full of direction, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, you begin to rise. Not with noise, not with announcements, not with grand declarations, but with quiet strength. You rise because you finally understand yourself. You rise because you have heard your own voice. You rise because silence showed you what mattered and what never did. You rise because you gave yourself the gift of space, of reflection, of truth. Silence becomes the foundation upon which you build the rest of your life. Focusing on yourself strengthens your spirit and purpose in a way that nothing else in the world can offer. When you turn your attention inward, instead of stretching yourself thin, trying to please every face you meet, you begin to feel a shift deep inside you. It is a shift that feels like returning home after years of wandering through unfamiliar landscapes. There is a kind of power that rises when you decide that your time, your mind, and your energy are worth honoring. The world often teaches people to scatter themselves in every direction, to give pieces of their heart to places where they are not valued, to give their time to people who would never sacrifice a second for them, to give their dreams away because someone else told them they were too big to hold. But when you pull all those pieces back, when you say to yourself, "Let me focus on me for a moment," you begin to gather your strength again. Focusing on yourself is not selfishness, it is self-respect. It is recognizing that you cannot pour from an empty cup and you cannot shine if you are constantly dimming your own light just to make others comfortable. When you choose to center yourself, you are choosing to honor your worth. You are choosing to acknowledge that your soul needs space to breathe, your dreams need room to grow, and your peace deserves protection. For far too long, people have been taught that tending to themselves is an act of arrogance. But the truth is that people who take care of themselves are the ones who can love more freely, give more generously, and contribute more powerfully. When you focus on yourself, you begin to build the foundation of your life with intention instead of randomness. Your spirit becomes stronger every time you choose yourself. Strength does not always reveal itself through muscle or volume. Sometimes strength is discovered in the quiet decision to say no when you used to say yes out of fear or guilt. Sometimes it is in the courage to walk away from what does not feed you. Sometimes it lies in the discipline to wake up early and work on your dream when no one is watching. The spirit grows strong through the decisions that honor your future instead of your comfort. Focusing on yourself teaches you how to take those decisions seriously because you understand that your life is not something to be taken lightly. Every choice you make shapes your destiny. Every moment you spend either strengthens your purpose or distracts you from it. When you focus on yourself, you begin to notice the parts of your life that are misaligned. You begin to see the relationships that drain you instead of fuel you. You begin to recognize the habits that sabotage your potential. You begin to see how much time you wasted trying to be what others wanted instead of who you were meant to become. This awareness is uncomfortable at first, but it is necessary. It is like pulling weeds out of a garden so that the flowers can finally bloom without obstruction. Clarity is a gift that only comes when you are brave enough to sit with yourself long enough to see the truth. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Your spirit demands better. Your purpose demands direction. Your future demands discipline. Purpose is not something you find outside of yourself. Purpose lives inside you, waiting to be awakened. But it awakens only when you stop scattering your energy and start nurturing your own growth. A scattered life cannot carry purpose. A distracted mind cannot pursue destiny. A divided heart cannot walk in confidence. Focusing on yourself is the act of gathering your spirit, gathering your courage, gathering your attention, so that you can move with intention and clarity. When you focus on yourself, you begin to walk differently. You begin to think differently. You begin to speak differently. You begin to choose differently. You begin to carry yourself with a quiet dignity that comes from knowing who you are and what you bring to the world. It is not always easy to focus on yourself, especially when you have spent years putting everyone else first. Sometimes the guilt tries to pull you back into old patterns. Sometimes the world questions your shift. Sometimes people who benefited from your lack of boundaries become uncomfortable when you start building them. But every moment spent focusing on yourself strengthens you from the inside. You learn that guilt is not a guide, it is a shadow. You learn that disappointment from others is not a sign that you are wrong, it is a sign that you are growing. You learn that protecting your peace may make some people uncomfortable, but your peace was never meant to be sacrificed for the comfort of others. Focusing on yourself means giving yourself permission to dream again, to heal deeply, to build slowly, to rise steadily. It means acknowledging your wounds without letting them define you. It means honoring your potential without apologizing for it. When you focus on yourself, your inner voice becomes louder, wiser, more trustworthy. You begin to hear the guidance that was always there but drowned out by the demands of other people. That voice shows you the path you were meant to take. That voice strengthens your purpose. That voice becomes your compass. Every step you take toward yourself strengthens your spirit. You start learning who you are when you are not performing. You start learning what you love when you are not seeking approval. You start learning what you value when you are not trying to fit someone else's expectations. Focusing on yourself brings you back to your essence, the part of you that existed before the world tried to shape you. And as that essence resurfaces, your spirit becomes unshakable. You begin to walk with a sense of assurance that cannot be bought, taught, or forced. It grows only from within. People who focus on themselves begin to see life differently. They no longer chase validation because they understand that their worth was never dependent on applause. They no longer settle for mediocrity because they realize their purpose is too large to shrink for small environments. They no longer fear solitude because they have learned that solitude is where transformation begins. They no longer rush through life because they understand that purpose unfolds in its own rhythm. They no longer cling to what is harmful because they recognize that true growth requires letting go. Focusing on yourself does not mean isolating yourself from the world. It means participating in life from a place of fullness instead of emptiness. It means giving from a place of overflow instead of depletion. It means showing up strong because you have taken the time to strengthen your spirit. When you focus on yourself, you begin to invest in your growth the way a gardener invests in fertile soil. You water your mind with books, with reflection, with intention. You nourish your body with rest, care, and discipline. You feed your spirit with faith, gratitude, and honesty. And in return, you grow as your spirit grows stronger. Your purpose becomes clearer. You start to see the path unfolding. You start to understand why certain things had to fall apart. You start to appreciate the seasons of loneliness because you realize those were the seasons where you learned who you are. You start to trust the timing of your life instead of forcing things that are not meant for you. You start to believe that you are capable, worthy, and destined. Focusing on yourself builds a confidence that cannot be taken away because it is built from truth, not validation. When you focus on yourself, you stop living life on accident. You begin to live on purpose. You begin to make choices that align with your values. You begin to prioritize the things that matter. You begin to release the things that weigh you down. Your spirit becomes stronger because you are no longer divided. Your purpose becomes stronger because you are no longer distracted. Your heart becomes stronger because you are no longer giving it to places that cannot hold it. Your mind becomes stronger because you are no longer entertaining thoughts that weaken you. And in this strengthening, you discover that focusing on yourself is not a moment, but a lifestyle. It is a commitment. It is a practice. It is a sacred act of honoring the life within you. You begin to realize that every great transformation begins not with an audience, not with applause, not with noise, but with a person who is willing to look inward and say, I am ready to rise. And the more you rise within, the more your life rises around you. Not every battle deserves your energy or explanation. And the sooner a person understands this, the more peace they begin to carry in their spirit. Life will present you with many challenges, many confrontations, many invitations to fight, defend, explain, justify, and argue. But you must learn with wisdom and maturity that not every invitation deserves, and please reply. There are moments where silence is your shield, where walking away is your strength, and where conserving your energy is the most powerful decision you can make. Every battle has a cost, and you must ask yourself whether the cost of your peace, your time, your stability, and your purpose is worth what you are fighting for. Most of the time, it isn't. People often assume strength is measured by how loudly you defend yourself or how aggressively you stand your ground. But true strength is knowing which battles are beneath your dignity. Strength is knowing that you do not have to attend every argument you are invited to. Strength is choosing your peace over your pride, your progress over your anger, your future over your impulse. When you learn to let certain things pass, you become unstoppable. Because you stop wasting your power on things that do not add to your life. You stop bleeding energy into situations that do not deserve a drop of your spirit. Not every battle is yours. Some battles belong to ignorance. Some belong to jealousy. Some belong to people who have not yet grown. Some belong to old wounds that others have not healed. And some battles are simply traps designed to distract you from the path you are meant to walk. When you understand this, you begin to observe situations with wisdom instead of reacting with emotion. You begin to see that some people provoke you not because you are wrong, but because they want to pull you down to the level where they feel most comfortable. Some confrontations appear powerful, but their purpose is only to drain you. When you fight every battle placed in front of you, you sacrifice your energy to chaos rather than saving it for your calling. Your energy is precious. It is not something to be handed out freely. Every conversation, every argument, every emotional reaction requires energy. And if you give your energy to meaningless battles, you rob yourself of the power you need for meaningful growth. Arguments rarely change minds. Explanations rarely satisfy people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Justifications rarely bring peace to people who thrive on conflict. So why give them more of yourself than they deserve? You must learn to protect your energy like a sacred resource, because it is. Your energy is the fuel that drives your purpose, your healing, your evolution, your dreams, and anything that drains it must be carefully measured. Sometimes the biggest battle you will ever fight is with your own ego. The ego wants to win. The ego wants to be right. The ego wants to defend itself, even when silence is the wiser choice. But when you learn to tame your ego, when you learn to choose peace over pride, you begin to elevate your life. You begin to rise above the chaos that once overwhelmed you. You begin to walk with a quiet confidence that is not shaken by noise. Your spirit becomes stronger because you have learned the art of restraint. You have learned that not everything needs your reaction, and that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to let something go. When you refuse to engage in meaningless battles, you send a message to the world about who you are. You show that you are not easily moved. You show that your peace is not for sale. You show that your purpose is not to be derailed by negativity. This kind of strength is not loud, it is steady. It is the kind of strength that comes from knowing your worth. When you know who you are, you no longer need to explain yourself to people who are not on your level of understanding. You no longer feel the urge to defend your choices to people who were never meant to walk your path. You no longer feel pressured to justify your dreams to people who have never dared to dream themselves. There is a quiet dignity in choosing your battles. It is the dignity of knowing that you do not have to prove your value in small fights. You do not have to stoop to pettiness. You do not have to match the energy of those who thrive on conflict. Some people want reactions because reactions feed their insecurity. Some people want explanations because explanations give them control. Some people want drama because drama distracts them from their own emptiness. But you must not let these people pull you into their storms. You must remain the calm. You must remain rooted. You must remain committed to your own growth even when others try to bait you into battles that dishonor your spirit. One of the greatest lessons life will teach you is that silence can speak louder than arguments. Walking away can be a statement. Refusing to explain yourself can be a declaration of self-worth. When you refuse to fight, you are not giving up. You are rising above. You are choosing peace. You are choosing mental clarity. You are choosing emotional maturity. You are choosing your future over your frustration. And that is a level of wisdom that many never reach. Not every attack requires a defense. Not every insult deserves a response. Not every misunderstanding needs correcting. When you try to defend yourself against every misinterpretation, you exhaust yourself trying to manage other people's perceptions. But people will believe what they want to believe, whether you speak or stay silent. You cannot control how people see you. You can only control how you carry yourself. And when you carry yourself with grace, their opinions become powerless. When you carry yourself with integrity, their accusations lose their sting. When you walk in truth, their lies crumble under their own weight in life. Your energy must be directed with purpose. You must invest your energy into healing, growth, learning, building, loving, creating. You must guard your spirit from unnecessary conflict, because conflict has a way of poisoning your mind, wearing down your nerves and distracting you from the things that truly matter. Your purpose is too important to be interrupted by battles that lead nowhere. You are meant for elevation, not entanglement. You are meant for clarity, not confusion. You are meant for greatness, not arguments with people who do not see your vision. When you save your energy for the battles that matter, your dreams, your healing, your discipline, your destiny, you begin to see your life change. You begin to see that some battles were only sent to delay you. Some conflicts were designed to weaken you. Some arguments were meant to distract you long enough to keep you from stepping into your greatness. But when you rise above these traps, when you keep your spirit focused, when you choose maturity over reaction, your progress becomes unstoppable. You must learn to ask yourself before engaging in any battle, does this deserve my energy? Does this contribute to my growth? Does this align with my purpose? Does this elevate me or drain me? Does this bring me closer to who I want to be? If the answer is no, then let it go. Let it pass. Let it dissolve. Some things fade on their own when you stop feeding them with your attention. And some people lose their power the moment you stop reacting to them. Your spirit becomes lighter when you stop carrying the weight of unnecessary battles. Your mind becomes clearer when you stop filling it with arguments that lead nowhere. Your heart becomes stronger when you stop allowing every little thing to disturb your peace. Your purpose becomes brighter when you stop letting small distractions dim your focus. Life becomes more beautiful when you stop fighting battles that are not yours to fight. Your transformation becomes undeniable when you rise in quiet, when you stop announcing every small step you take and instead allow your growth to speak for you. There is a certain magic in private progress, a sacredness in becoming someone new without needing the world's applause or attention. People often feel the urge to broadcast their healing, their plans, their discipline, their dreams, thinking that saying it out loud will somehow make it more real. But true transformation is not born from announcements. It is born from consistent, quiet effort. The kind of effort that doesn't seek validation, the kind that doesn't ask for permission, the kind that grows roots long before it grows branches. When you rise in quiet, your transformation becomes impossible to deny because it comes from a place purer than performance. It comes from the depth of your soul, from the honesty of your reflections, from the courage of your decisions. Quiet rising means you are not trying to prove anything to anyone. You are not performing confidence. You are not pretending to grow. You are not showcasing change. You are simply becoming. And real becoming does not need an audience. It needs commitment. It needs patience. It needs privacy. The most powerful changes happen when no one is watching, when no one is clapping, when no one is applauding you for doing the inner work. There is a quiet power that forms inside a person who chooses to rise in silence. This power is steady, unshakable, rooted. It is not the kind of power that demands attention. It is the kind that commands it naturally. When you rise quietly, you begin to strengthen parts of yourself that noise could never reach. You begin to rebuild the foundations of your life with precision and care. You begin to sharpen your mind, nurture your spirit, and discipline your habits without distractions. No one sees the hours you spend reflecting. No one sees the nights you spend healing. No one sees the sacrifices you make to become better than who you were yesterday, but they will see the results. They will see the transformation. They will see the glow that silence helped you grow. The reason quiet rising is so powerful is because it protects your transformation from premature judgment. People will judge what they do not understand, criticize what they cannot comprehend, doubt what they are not capable of doing themselves. If you announce every small step of your journey, you open the door for voices that were never meant to shape your destiny. You allow doubt to seep into your confidence. You give people opportunities to discourage you before you are strong enough to withstand it. But when you rise in silence, you protect your growth until it is strong enough to stand on its own. You guard your transformation like a gardener guards a seedling, knowing that early exposure can prevent blossoming, quiet rising. Also teaches you discipline because you learn to work without praise. You learn to show up for yourself even when no one is watching. You learn to follow your own path without needing applause to motivate you. That is when growth becomes real. That is when change becomes permanent. Anyone can perform change for a moment, but true change requires consistency. Consistency that grows in the dark. Consistency that grows in silence. Consistency that does not rely on validation. When you rise quietly, your habits become stronger because they are built from internal conviction, not external recognition. There is also a certain grace that comes with rising quietly. It is the grace of not needing to compare yourself to others. It is the grace of moving at your own pace. It is the grace of listening to your own rhythm instead of the world's noise. When you rise quietly, you stop measuring your progress by someone else's timeline. You stop forcing yourself to grow just to look successful. You stop rushing your journey to keep up with people who are not walking the same path. In silence, you learn to honor your own timing. You learn to appreciate your own pace. You learn that transformation is not a race, but a return, returning to who you were meant to be before the world distracted you. As you rise quietly, your inner world begins to shift. Your thoughts become clearer. Your emotions become steadier. Your decisions become more intentional. You start letting go of what once controlled you. You start healing wounds you used to ignore. You start building discipline you once avoided. All of this happens without a spotlight. All of this happens without performance. All of this happens within the quiet chambers of your own growth. And slowly, without forcing it, you begin to evolve into someone you barely recognize but deeply admire. The people around you may not notice the change at first. They may still see you through the lens of who you used to be. They may still expect the old reactions, the old habits, the old vulnerabilities. But silence gives you something that noise cannot: surprise. One day they will look at you and realize that you no longer respond the way you once did. They will notice that the things that used to break you no longer shake you. They will see that the things that once tempted you no longer move you. They will witness the transformation you cultivated in quiet. And they will wonder how you changed so drastically without their awareness. They will not know the nights you spent in prayer, the mornings you spent in discipline, the hours you spent in reflection. They will only see the result, and the result will be undeniable. Quiet rising allows your transformation to be authentic. It allows it to come from your own desire rather than pressure from others. When you transform for yourself, your growth is rooted in truth. It is not a trend. It is not a phase. It is not a response to someone else's expectations. It is a personal evolution that grows from your spirit. And when your transformation is authentic, it becomes unshakable because it is not built on fragile foundations like approval or appearance. It is built on the strength of your own commitment. It is built on the honesty of your own reflection. It is built on the courage of your own choices. There is something profoundly beautiful about rising in quiet because it teaches you to trust yourself, trust your instincts, trust your healing process, trust your journey, trust that you don't need to announce your transformation for it to be real. Trust that the same God who planted purpose inside you will reveal that purpose at the right time. Trust that your growth does not need to be public to be powerful. Many people speak loudly about change, but never take the steps to live it. But you, when you rise quietly, you are doing the work that cannot be faked. You are doing the internal work that produces visible results. Quiet rising also teaches you independence. It teaches you that you do not need an audience to become who you were meant to be. You do not need constant encouragement to stay disciplined. You do not need compliments to keep going. You do not need recognition to stay committed. When you rise in silence, you become your own motivator, your own encourager, your own mirror. You begin to see your progress through the lens of self-awareness rather than through the lens of others' approval. And that kind of independence is a form of power that cannot be taken away because it is built from deep within. When your transformation finally becomes visible, it becomes undeniable because it was shaped with sincerity. It becomes undeniable because it was built with patience. It becomes undeniable because it was sculpted in silence. People will try to question it, but the evidence will be too strong. People will try to doubt it, but your growth will speak louder than their skepticism. People will try to pull you back into who you were, but your spirit will have outgrown those spaces. They will see a version of you that silence built, grounded, calm, strengthened, purposeful, and they will not be able to deny the shift. Your quiet rising also teaches you humility. You realize that you do not need to boast about your growth because real growth reveals itself without words. Humility does not mean shrinking. It means knowing your worth so deeply that you do not need to shout it. It means letting your actions speak for you. It means letting your presence tell your story. It means becoming so aligned with your purpose that you feel no urge to prove anything. The stronger you grow inside, the quieter your spirit becomes. Noise comes from insecurity. Silence comes from strength. Quiet transformation builds resilience. When no one is cheering you on, you learn to cheer for yourself. When no one sees your struggle, you learn to validate your own effort. When no one acknowledges your growth, you learn to take pride in the fact that God saw it all and you saw it too. That resilience becomes the backbone of every chapter that follows. It becomes the force that allows you to face storms with courage, disappointments with calm, challenges with clarity. You begin to carry yourself with an unshakable steadiness because you know what you overcame privately. Your rise in quiet also protects you from burnout. When you try to prove yourself to the world, you exhaust your spirit trying to meet expectations that were never yours to carry. But when you rise privately, your transformation comes from authenticity, not performance. You grow because it is who you are becoming, not because you are trying to impress anyone. And transformation rooted in authenticity is sustainable, gentle, Enduring quiet rising prepares you for the moments when God reveals your growth. Because when the time is right, your transformation will show itself not through your words, but through your presence. Not through your announcements, but through your actions. Not through your explanations, but through your essence. People will see the strength in your silence, the wisdom in your choices, the calm in your steps. They will see the glow in your spirit, the discipline in your habits, the peace in your eyes. They will see the transformation that silence helped you create. And as your transformation becomes undeniable, you begin to understand why quiet rising was necessary all along. You see that silence protected you. Silence shaped you. Silence strengthened you. Silence prepared you. Silence grew you. You realize that the quiet was not a pause, but a process. Not emptiness, but preparation. Not loneliness, but alignment. You realize that every moment spent rising in silence was a moment that built you into the person you were always meant to be.